Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Andrew's Life. It's been a while since I've done a video to where I'm sitting down in my house. The majority of my videos I typically do in my vehicle, driving around, showing you different towns and cities or what have you. But I'm gonna be doing I'm gonna still do those videos, obviously, but I'm gonna do a few videos like this again because I got some important information that I think you people need to know and understand. Now, as y'all know, housing prices have went up substantially. I mean, to the point where it's just insane. And I know a lot of you are probably flipping out because you're unable to find a home that's within your price range. A lot of you have been very financially responsible and you've been saving up all your money. You've been working hard at your job. And you're ready to go in and purchase your first home. Some of you, like myself, you already own a home and you're just looking to upgrade. Like you might want to move to a better community, you might want a bigger home, what have you, or a newer home, what have you. Well, I have purchased homes before in a market like this where it seems like every day the house prices go up and the selection of houses become thinner and thinner and thinner. Now, I will be honest. I mean, I've purchased a condo back in Tennessee. It is in a suburb of Nashville, Tennessee, back in 2006. I purchased a condo in 2006, which was still the heat of the housing market back then, before the recession, of course. And then, once again, in 2008, the year of the recession. But during this time, the housing market was still fairly busy. This was like in, I want to say, early to mid 2008. I mean, by then, there's some parts of the country that were already feeling the pinch economically. But in 2008, like in mid 2008, Tennessee was still doing pretty good. Housing prices, for the most part, were still, pretty stable. So in 2008, I purchased my first actual, house. Not a condo, but an actual house, driveway, yard, all that jazz. Now, I will admit that house purchasing during then was a little easier, probably significantly easier than it is right now, because it seems like right now housing prices are going up quicker than they did during the 2000s. And as I understand, for those of you that are not able to purchase a home and pay cash, you're having to take out some sort of a loan. I mean, I understand that the stipulations in which you would be accepted for a mortgage have gotten much tougher. And there's more paperwork you gotta fill out. There's way more requirements you have to meet than before and all that kind of jazz. And I guess a lot of that is due to what happened during the recession in the late 2000s. But there's just certain standards or criteria that I believe anyone out here looking for a home ought to go by, no matter what. Whether the market is busy, whether it's slow, I'm going to just give you some things that you should go by or at least think about as you're shopping around for your next home or you're shopping around for your very first home. I mean, number one, don't buy a home for the sake of impressing your family or your friends. Buy a home for yourself, for your family. When I say your family, I'm talking about your immediate family. Like if you got children, your wife, I'm talking about that family. If you're like me, you're solo, you're by yourself, buy a home for yourself. And in doing that, don't buy a home any bigger than what you need. So these are going to be a few tips that I believe that people should go by when buying a home in order to save money on housing, and just make your life as a homeowner a lot easier, and also decrease your chances of running into a situation to where your finances get upside down and then you're going to face foreclosure. So basically, number one, like I just got done telling you, don't buy a house to impress anybody. Buy a house for yourself. Whatever your needs might be, buy a home to meet your needs and your needs only. If you got a family, their needs too. When I say a family, I'm talking about your children, your wife. I'm not talking about nobody else's kids. I'm not talking about your brother or your sister. I'm not talking about your moms, your father, your grandma. I ain't talking about none of them. I'm talking about just yourself and your own family. So, like for one example, I'm by myself. So, when I go out here and I look for houses, typically I look for homes that are smaller, like no bigger than 1,000 square feet. Now, the last house I had before this one was massive. I mean, the house was 2,000 square feet, and it was way too big of a house. The upkeep was ridiculous. My utility bills were high, or at least for me they were high, because I'm trying to heat up a 2,000 square foot home during the winter, and I'm trying to keep a 2,000 square foot home cool during the summer. So the house I'm in right now is a little under 1,000 square feet, and my utility bills have went down by about 50% because I'm cooling and heating much less house. And my repairs have went down, my maintenance is lower, and just general cleaning and upkeep is also easier. And I'm also able to clean this house a lot faster because this house is so much smaller. Like my other house had an upstairs. This house, everything's on one floor, so no steps to deal with. Which, given the fact that I got arthritis, I don't need to be dealing with stairs anyway. Now, when I go work out at the gym, I do use the little stair machine because I'm trying to build my lower body back up, and I'm also trying to lose 50 pounds. But that'll be on another video. But anyways, when buying a house, just sit down, think about what you need, think about what you want, write it all down. Like in one section of a piece of paper, write down everything you need. On the other side of that piece of paper, write down what you want. And if you're married, talk to your wife or your husband and just discuss your wants and your needs in whatever house you're going to purchase. And then after you do that, the second thing you want to do is you want to look at your budget. Like, how much money can you afford for a house? Now, I'll give you a couple of things to consider when looking at how much you want to spend on a house. I mean, number one, the rule of thumb is you should not spend no more than 30% of your take-home pay for housing, and that includes your mortgage, your property taxes, your homeowner insurance, and it also includes your utility bills, and it also includes whatever money that you're going to set aside for repair and maintenance on the house. So the rule of thumb is you should spend no more than 30% of your take-home income per month on housing expenses. Now, let's see what else. And also another thing to keep in mind is the average millionaire pays off their home in 10.2 years. Now, I know most of you are not. I know most of you are average, and there's nothing wrong with being average. But if you can get to where you're living a life better than average, then that's what you should be doing. But yeah, the average millionaire pays off their house in 10.2 years. So for those of you that are wanting to retire young, or retire early, or just for, or have a retirement fund at all, just keep that in mind. Now, when getting a mortgage, I mean, most people take out a traditional 30-year mortgage. But in actuality, you'll be better off taking out a 15-year mortgage. Now, a lot of people assume, okay, well, if I do a 15-year mortgage, then my payments are going to be double because you're paying off the house in half the time, and that's not how it works. Like, when they figure out your monthly payments for your mortgage, I mean, they're gonna figure out the interest rate. Because, I mean, in a nutshell, this is how it goes. Like, when you get your mortgage after you close on your property, I mean, like, you make your first payment, and then, I mean, let me back up. Well, for starters, when it comes to your mortgage, if you take out a 30-year mortgage, now, number one, you're going to want to put down a minimum of 20%. Now, if you put down less than 20%, you're going to have to pay what's called PMI insurance. And basically, that insurance is there just in case you get foreclosed on due to not being able to afford your home anymore. If you get foreclosed on, that insurance just ensures the bank that they're going to still, one way or another, get the money for that property. Now personally, I think that insurance is a big scam, but once again, I digress. But anyways, put down at least 20%. That way you can avoid having to pay what's called a PMI insurance. Now, back to the mortgage. Now, whenever you make a payment on your mortgage, I mean, number one, for the first, I want to say for the first 2 years, give or take, the payments you make on your mortgage, if you take out a 30-year mortgage, will be nothing but interest that you're going to be making payments on. So for the first couple of years, give or take, you're not going to pay not a single dime on the actual principal of your balance. Now, when you get to the point where you start making payments to where you pay enough to where it takes down your principal, like if you owe, let's say $60,000, you make a payment of $1,000, okay, you're down to $59,000. Well, the bank or your mortgage holder will take that $59,000, they'll do their calculations, and they're going to charge you interest based on that $59,000. And every month that you pay your mortgage up until your home is paid off completely, you're going to have to pay interest. So every payment that you make, of course, it's going to, they're going to divide it up to where so much money will go towards interest, and then so much will go for your actual principal. Now, if you take out a 15-year mortgage, the amount of money that you'll save on interest is going to be significant. And a lot of times with a 15-year mortgage, depending on how much you spend on your house, and I guess depending on your interest rate, if you do a 15-year mortgage as opposed to a 30-year mortgage, your payment is only going to be maybe $100 or $2 per month higher than what it would be if you did a traditional 30-year mortgage. So when you look to buy a house and you sit down with your bank or or a mortgage holder or a broker or whoever, just keep that in mind. Just ask them, hey sir, hey ma'am, can you calculate how much my payments would be if I took out a 15-year mortgage as opposed to a 30? Now, if you feel kind of funny about taking a 15-year mortgage because you think, okay, I'm not going to be able to afford to pay that extra $100 or $2 every month, and if that happens, then I'm going to get in trouble. So what you can do then is go ahead, sign your papers, do the 30-year mortgage, but still ask your lender how much how much your payment would be if you took out a 15-year mortgage. And whenever you come into some extra money, or you get a pay raise, or you advance in your career, whatever the case, you can always go back to how much it would be if you had a 15-year mortgage, and you can start paying that amount as opposed to paying the amount that you would pay if you wanted to drag it out for 30 years. So when it comes to getting a mortgage, you're better off getting a 15-year mortgage. The amount of money you will save on a 15-year mortgage as opposed to a 30-year mortgage is going to be very significant. Now, I'm not going to get into numbers because that all depends on how much the house is. It all depends on your interest rate and just some other stuff. But I'm going to just speak generically and just tell you, if you take out a 15-year mortgage, you will save a ton of money. Not to mention that you'll be 15 years younger when you get your home paid off. Like if you go and you buy your first home at, let's say, 30 years old, rather than having to wait until you're 60 to finally get to enjoy a fully paid off house, you'll get to enjoy that paid off house when you're 45. Think about that. And think about all that extra money that you can take, and you can put aside, if you got kids, you can put that money aside in some sort of a college fund. That way when your kids graduate high school, they don't have to go in debt taking out student loans, because you'll have money saved up to where you can send them to college, and then y'all can fund that college paying cash. If you don't have kids, then you can take that money and put it in some sort of a mutual fund, building compound interest, and it can go towards your retirement. So just bear all that in mind as you buy your first house, or you buy your next house, whatever the case. And so yeah, so when it comes to buying a house, don't buy more house than what you need size wise, and don't buy more house than what you're going to be able to afford to pay. Now the bank might, now let's say you're making $50,000 a year. The bank might tell you, okay, you make 50 a year. They might qualify you for a $200,000 house. I mean, I don't know exactly what the criteria today is, because I'm not dealing with no kind of a mortgage. I'm not dealing with no kind of a bank. I mean, I'm gonna purchase, I made a video yesterday just kind of showing you guys the general area in which I was looking for a new house in. And I'll probably have some more videos like that, because I'm gonna be looking into more areas. But anyhow, you know, I got enough money stashed away in savings to where the next house I buy, I'm gonna be able to buy and pay cash. So fortunately for me, I don't have to deal with no bank or mortgage holder or any of that kind of crap, because you know I've managed to save up enough money to where I can just pay cash. And secondly, the kind of house I'm buying, it's not gonna be nothing fancy, it's not gonna be nothing super expensive. So that's working in my favor as well. But anyways, let's say you make $50,000 a year. Bank qualifies you for a home that's $200,000. Now, my suggestion would be to you is do not go out here and buy a $200,000 house. I would buy a home for no more than $100,000. Now, obviously, if you live in a state or a region to where the cost of living is a little more expensive, and you're really wanting to be a homeowner bad, I mean, personally, if I was you, you might want to look for another region or another state or another part of the country to reside, to where housing prices are a little lower. Because if you're making 50 grand a year, if the household income is 50 grand a year per se, personally, I wouldn't buy anything for any more than $100,000. And if you got your 20 grand to put down, then that $100,000 will come down to $80,000. So you make 50 a year, you got a mortgage for $80,000. Making 50 grand a year, assuming that you're responsible with your money and you haven't ran up a ton of debt, you should be able to pay that $80,000 off in no time. If you make 50 a year, my philosophy is live off of 30 grand a year and take the other 20 grand a year and put all that towards your mortgage and get rid of your mortgage. And if to include all the interest that you'll pay on the mortgage, I would say in 4.5 years, $20,000 a year, 20 by 4 is 80,000. Well, there's going to be interest, so just to make things easier, I'm going to allow an additional $10,000 for interest. Now, interest over a time frame of 4 years probably will not be that high, but just to make life easier for me at this particular moment, I'll just say that the interest will be $5,000 to $10,000. So with that being said, 4.5 years worth of $20,000, $20,000 for your first 4 years, and then for that 5th year you put $10,000. So that's 4.5 years worth of money. Hopefully you guys know where I'm coming from with that. So basically, yeah, within 4.5 years that mortgage ought to be paid off. And imagine the amount of money that you would save in interest, and imagine all the extra money that you would have every month after you pay off your mortgage that you can set aside in retirement, your kids' college fund. You can go out here, do a little bit of traveling, take a few vacations. You can do all that fun stuff. You can set up a little FU fund. That way, if you get a job that you don't like down the road, or if you're working a job right now and you like what you do, but one day you, for whatever reason, you no longer want to do what you do, or you no longer like the company or the people you work for, you can just put in your 2-week notice or whatever and quit and take a little bit of time off to travel, rest, take it easy before going on and getting another job. So yeah, don't buy a house bigger than what you need, and don't take out a loan larger than what you need. So I would say for every $50,000 that you earn per year, household income or individual income, don't take out no more than $100,000. So that means if you're making $100,000 a year, then don't take out any more than $200,000 worth of mortgage. I think you guys get it by now. Just do math, simple math. And then another thing you're gonna want to bear in mind when buying a house is you're gonna want the area. I mean, what kind of neighborhood do you want to live in? Now, obviously, the type of neighborhood that you're gonna want to live in is one thing. But then once again, you're going to have to bear in mind, okay, this is what you want, but this is what you can actually afford. Like, you might want to live in the suburbs, but if you're making 50 a year and you're being responsible, so you're spending no more than $100,000 for a home. $100,000 for a home in this market is not going to put you in the suburbs. It's going to put you in it will put you in a decent neighborhood. It's just not going to be in the suburbs. It's probably not even going to be in the metro. You'll probably be in some smaller city, like a city with a population of maybe 50,000 people, give or take. So you're going to want to think about what type of community do you want to live in. Do you want to live in a large city, small city, suburb? Do you want to live out in the rural community? Do you want to be in the country? And then of course, when you think about all that, you're gonna still have to keep all the numbers in mind, like what can you afford. So, and then after you think about that, obviously you're gonna have to think about, okay, now if you work from home, then congratulations, because if you work from home, you can live virtually anywhere you want to live, because you're not going to have to worry about commuting back and forth to your job, because your job is at home anyway. But if you're like many of us and you're still working that storefront 9 to 5 type of deal, you're going to want to take into consideration, okay, well, how far do you want to drive to work? And with that in mind, you're going to also want to bear in mind, okay, well, what's the gas mileage on the kind of vehicle that you drive? Like, if you find a home in an area that you like a whole lot, and let's say it's 45 minutes away from your job, or even an hour away from your job. Now, if your current vehicle is a gas guzzling Yukon or some sort of SUV, you might want to purchase a smaller vehicle. Now, in purchasing a vehicle, I'm a huge advocate of buying a vehicle for cash. I mean, I am strongly against people doing a car payment for a vehicle. You know, anytime you need to buy a vehicle, bear in mind, a vehicle is a depreciating asset. So when you buy a vehicle, buy one and pay cash. So if you have a gas guzzling Yukon, let's say, and you find you a home you really want, you like the area, you like the house, and this area is, let's say, 45 minutes to an hour from your job. Well, I guess if you got the money, or you don't mind spending the money, you can keep a Yukon and just drive a Yukon back and forth to your job every day. But if you want to save a little bit of money, then it would behoove you to go on Craigslist and maybe buy you a 4-cylinder car, a 4-cylinder subcompact car for a few $1,000s off of Craigslist. And then that would be your work car. And then you can drive your Yukon for days you don't work. So that's something you're going to want to bear in mind too. How far are you going to want to drive back and forth to and from your job? What kind of a vehicle do you have? What's the gas economy? How reliable is your vehicle? And can you afford to buy another vehicle if necessary? So those are all things you're going to want to bear in mind. And then, of course, when it comes to your community, you're going to want to bear in mind, you know, how important are certain amenities? Or how far are you willing to be from certain amenities? Like when I do my videos of different cities, I typically talk about the population, and then I disclose the population density, because, you know, there's people like myself that don't really care to live super close to our neighbors. You know, we want to have a little bit of room between our house and our neighbor's house. We don't want to look out our window and be able to see inside their house. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to live so close to where when we step outside and we stretch our arms out like this, one arm is hitting my house, the other arm is hitting my neighbor's house. And then there's other people that they don't mind that. In fact, they like it. And then there's other people that want to be in the sticks, they want to be in the middle of nowhere, and they don't want to be around nobody at all whatsoever. Which is all well and good. But that's something that you need to think about as you're shopping around for your home and you're crunching the numbers of what you're able to afford. So no matter what housing market that you're in, these are the type of things you're going to want to do. I don't care if the market is slow. I don't care if it's crazy busy like it is right now. I don't care if it's in between. I mean, so to rehash, when it comes to buying a house, never buy anything that you're not going to be able to afford. Don't buy a house bigger than what you need, because if you buy a house that's big, you're going to be paying more money for maintenance, you're going to be paying more money for utilities, you're going to be paying more money for repairs and what have you. So if you buy smaller, then all that is going to be cheaper. Repairs will be cheaper, maintenance will be cheaper, utilities will be cheaper, upkeep will be cheaper, and not to mention that when it comes time to clean the house, you'll be able to clean the house much faster and have more of your day left to do other stuff. So this, no matter what the housing market is, just keep all that in your mind. I mean, as long as you follow these basic principles, you'll be just fine. Now, obviously, if you're wanting to purchase a home and you make, let's say, 20 some or 30 grand a year, and you've managed to save up a chunk of money for a down payment and your credit is good, or two, you manage to save up enough money and you're able to buy a home and pay cash. Now, I would say in this current market, even in some of the areas to where the cost of living is extra low. Now, the majority of the videos I've done so far have been in communities where the cost of living is extra low. And I would say in many of those communities right now, if you want something that's move-in condition ready, doesn't need a whole lot of work, if any at all, I would say be prepared to spend at least $70,000 bucks. Now, if you got some handy skills and you don't mind doing a little bit of fixing up, then there's plenty of fixer-uppers out here that you can grab up for $20,000 and $30,000. Now, even with the fixer-uppers, obviously, the more you spend, the less of a fixer-upper it's going to be. So just when shopping around for a fixer-upper, just bear that in mind as well. And when shopping around for a house in general, just understand that if you buy something for much lower than $70,000 here in the state of Indiana, and also in many other Midwestern states such as Ohio, Michigan, and Missouri, and even Illinois with the exception of Chicago, just bear in mind you buy anything for much lower than 70, you're going to most likely have a fixer-upper. Which there's nothing wrong with a fixer-upper. I mean, if you got the skills and you got the patience, have at it. Now, if you're a busy person and you got the funds to buy something a little better, then, like I said, be prepared to spend $70,000 plus in this current market. And another thing is, don't be pressured to buy a house. I mean, if you look at houses and you don't see anything that appeals to you, and you feel right now the prices are entirely too high, and you don't feel comfortable taking out a mortgage for that amount of money, don't do it. I mean, don't allow anybody, family, a realtor agent, your friend, don't allow anybody at all to pressure you to buy a house. If you're not ready to purchase because maybe you want to save up a little bit more money, or maybe you want to wait until the market slows up a little and the prices come down a little, which eventually they will, all that woo-rah about the market's not coming down no time soon, maybe it won't, but then again, maybe it will. Nobody truly really knows. So if you want to play the waiting game and wait for the market to come down, wait for the prices to come down, do that. Don't allow anybody to pressure you to buy a house, because for the majority of us, the biggest purchase that we're going to make in our life is buying a home. So don't allow anybody to pressure you to buy a house. And another thing you're going to want to do before you buy the house, of course, is you're going to want to hire a home inspector. Now, I'm going to do a whole nother video about a home inspector, because I've had my fair share of bad home inspectors. So I'll do a video about how to shop around for a home inspector. But you're going to definitely want to have a home inspector check out the house thoroughly before you sign on that dotted line, before you go to closing, obviously. Well, this video is getting a little long, so I'm going to go ahead and end it right here. I'm hoping that you guys got a piece of information or two or a few out of this video. And don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, do all that good stuff. Leave comments below. And like always, I appreciate every one of you who have subbed to my channel. I appreciate every one of you who have left comments below. So keep up the good work. I'm here for all of you, and everybody have a blessed one, and I will see you guys on the next video.